The Eternal Griot, Tales of the Seven-Eyed Calabash, Part 1, The Birth of Cumbeni and the Curse of the Talking Moon. Chapter 1, The Red Eclipse at Night. Cumbeni was born, the moon bled. It was an eclipse unlike any seen in the valley of Umwubba, a deep crimson eye that stared down upon the earth, watching, judging. The elders gathered beneath the Iroko tree whispered that the child born that night would never belong to this world or the next. Cumbeni came silently into the world. He did not cry, did not open his eyes. The midwife, old Makulawenya, held him to her ear. She said the child's silence hummed like a distant drumbeat, too soft for humans, too loud for spirits. His parents, frightened by omens, abandoned him at the shrine of Otto the river father. But Otto did not take him. The river receded, leaving the child dry but watched over by a leopardess with moonlight in her eyes. Chapter 2, The boy Who could not speak. Cumbeni grew as an orphan of the village, raised by wandering drummers and traders. But he never spoke. He listened, always listened, absorbing stories, songs, proverbs, and secrets. He followed griots like a shadow, sat by fires, and memorized every rhythm of the drum. At age 12, he climbed Mount Alanyara alone. At its peak stood the Well of the Whispering Dead. Those who drank from it claimed to hear their ancestors. Cumbeni drank. That night, under the stars, he began to sing, not words, but stories. Full tales, from tongues he had never been taught. He sang the sorrow of ancient queens and the laughter of trickster monkeys. And the wind stopped to listen. The next day, the villagers found him dancing alone, singing in the voice of 100 spirits. Chapter 3, The Curse of the Talking Moon. His fame spread. He was invited to the court of King Guzu of Uluba, where he was asked to perform. Among nobles and warriors, he told a tale no one had heard before, the story of how the moon once loved a human man and bore him 7 star children. The moon, jealous of the earth, had hidden the children in a calabash. As he finished, the palace shook. Outside, the full moon screamed. That night, the moon itself appeared to Cumbeni in a dream. Her face was not silver, it was cracked like a clay pot. She wept. "You should not know that tale," she said. "You were not meant to speak yet." She cursed him, "You will not die until you find my children and sing the full story. Until then, your feet will never rest, and your soul will never sleep. The Calabash of 7 Eyes holds the truth. Find it. Complete it. Only then will the last drum beat be yours." Chapter 4, The journey begins. Next morning, Cumbeni awoke with white streaks in his hair and a drum that pulsed like a heart. His shadow was longer than his body, and when he whispered, ants gathered to listen. He was no longer welcome in Uluba. The king feared him. The griots envied him. The priests avoided his gaze. He left with a blind leopard named Nadi, who had waited for him since birth. Together they crossed into the whispering savannah, where spirits traded memories for feathers and the wind spoke in riddles. There, Cumbeni met the wandering potter, who gave him a broken calabash with a single blinking eye carved into it. "This is the first of 7, the potter said. Each eye sees a truth that was buried. Tell its story. Only then will the eye close." Cumbeni accepted. The leopard growled approval. Chapter 5, The first eye opens. The calabash led him to a forgotten river village, Onaba, where people had lost their voices. They spoke with hands, gestures, and eyes, but not sound. Cumbeni spent 7 days among them and discovered their tragedy. Centuries ago, a spirit called Duru the Fisher King had given them golden voices in exchange for their silence during the moon's lament. But one child sang. Duru took all their speech. Cumbeni, under the moon, played a song that mimicked silence, a rhythm of wind, rustling leaves, and the hush of sleeping breath. The river shimmered. The villagers wept. Their voices returned, just enough to hum in unison. The eye on the calabash blinked. Then it closed. Chapter 6, The Drum Speaks. Combeni's drum changed that night. It began to hum on its own. In it, he heard the voice of the moon's daughter, trapped inside. "You are my brother now," she whispered. "We are both cursed to wander." Naughty, the leopard, looked into the fire and spoke for the first time. "The next tale lies where children never age, and laughter never dies." And so, Combeni journeyed onward. Thank you. Please proceed to the next episode. You can tell the next. Here is the next 3-hour segment of the Eternal Griot, Tales of the Seven-Eyed Calabash. Part 2, The River That Forgot Its Name. Chapter 1, The Path of Floating Bone. As Combeni and the blind leopard Naughty journeyed east, following the distant rhythm of a crying flute. It led them through thorny groves, over plains where the wind whistled in forgotten languages, and finally into the Valley of the Drowned Kings, a place where no birds flew, and the soil smelled of memory. At the valley's edge, they saw a vast river, but it had no name. The maps called it the Blank Flow. The villagers of Bara refused to speak of it. They threw salt into it before crossing. Children were warned never to swim, even in dreams. Combeni felt the calabash tremble. A new eye had begun to open. Chapter 2, The people of silt and stone. Villagers of Bara were pale from river mist and hollow-eyed like those who lived beside ghosts. They did not smile, and they listened too intently, as if the river itself whispered behind Combeni's words. He stayed with an elder named Dama, who told him that once, the river had a name, but the river chose to forget it. It used to sing its name in the current, Dama said. Until the Fish King and the Sand Sorcerer fought, and drowned 1,000 warriors in it. The river drank so much blood, it choked on its own memory. That night, Combeni walked to the river's edge. He drummed softly, and the river rippled with pain. A face surfaced, ancient and scaled, eyes full of regret. The spirit of the river whispered, "Greater than tell my tale. Free my name." Chapter 3, The Fish Kings. Under a full moon, Combeni began the tale. Once, long ago, the Fish King Obadiah ruled the river with harmony. He taught humans how to fish without greed and gave his scales to heal the sick. But the Sand Sorcerer, Irunbi, came from the deserts. He demanded tribute, gold and prayers. Obadiah refused. The sorcerer cursed the river's mouth, turning it to mud. Fish began to disappear. The people, starving, turned on the Fish King. In a final act of sorrow, Obadiah summoned his army of glowing fish and battled Irunbi at the delta. Thousands of warriors from both sides drowned. Obadiah vanished into the current. The river, ashamed, swallowed its own name so no one would remember the betrayal. Chapter 4, The Ritual of Rememberhood. Combeni knew he had to restore the river's name. With the help of Dama and the village's last shell diver, Afoma, they prepared a ritual of remembering. At midnight, on a carved raft of ancestral wood, Combeni stood atop the river with the calabash in hand. He sang, the sorrow of Obadiah, who gave too much. The rage of Irunbi, who feared obscurity. The guilt of humans, who forgot gratitude. As he sang, the water began to shimmer. From below, silver fish surfaced, forming symbols with their bodies. The leopard Naughty growled low, "It is speaking." The river's name returned, not in words, but in feeling, Calabash, the one who remembers pain. The second eye on the calabash blinked, and closed. Chapter 5, The Mermaid. Who lost her tail. Next morning, a young girl ran to Combeni, whispering about a woman in the forest who cried salt tears and spoke in fish song. He followed her to a glade, where he found a being neither human nor spirit. Her name was Asanya, daughter of Obadiah, who had given up her tail to save her father's soul. She could not return to the water until the river forgave itself. Combeni sang to the river again, not of war or sorrow, but of forgiveness. The current responded with warmth. a single scale floated to Asanya. She smiled for the first time in centuries. That night, she walked into the river, and the water did not swallow her. It embraced her. Chapter 6, The Call of the Third Eye. With the tale told and the river's name restored, Kambeni prepared to leave. Dama gifted him a flute made from river reed. "It remembers," he said, "just like you." The calabash trembled again. A new eye opened, and Naughty, ever silent, spoke once more, "Greater than now we go to the land where children do not age, and time has forgotten how to count." Kambeni turned his gaze to the west, where a rainbow shivered without rain, and distant laughter echoed, "Forever young." He and the leopard walked on, the drum on his back pulsing with the breath of rivers, ancestors, and stories yet to be told. Here is the Eternal Griot, Tales of the Seven-Eyed Calabash. Part 3, The Kingdom of Children Who Never Aged. Chapter 1, Laughter that Never Grows Old. Beyond the forest of forgotten songs, Kambeni and Naughty entered a land of eternal twilight where fireflies never rested, and birds sang lullabies backward. Here, children played endlessly beneath glowing trees, chasing mirages of kites and laughing winds. This was Ejena, the kingdom of the young, where no one aged past 12. Faces remained smooth. Voices remained high. And time refused to pass. At the center stood a palace carved from coral and bone, ruled by Queen Muso, a child sovereign with eyes too ancient for her face. She welcomed Kambeni with joy, but it was the kind that trembled at its edges. "You may tell stories here," she said, "but only the ones with happy endings." Chapter 2, The Child. Who wouldn't smiley among the children, Kambeni met a boy named Tima, who never laughed, never sang, and sat always at the edge of the playfields, carving masks from wind-fallen wood. Tima whispered to Kambeni at night, "Greater than we were once from many villages. Some of us had parents. Some of us had lives before this. But no one remembers anymore. Even I forget more each day." The calabash on Kambeni's belt shuddered. A third eye began to blink, hesitant, confused. Kambeni drummed near the moonlit fields and asked, "What tale must I tell, to bring back the truth?" And the wind answered with a child's riddle, "Greater than tell the tale of how time was stolen by the one who fared goodbye." Chapter 3, The Masked Orphan. King Kambeni gathered the children one night and began the tale. There was once a boy, Imaru, who wore a carved mask to hide his tears after his parents died. When he became king of his people, he outlawed sorrow and aged no further. Fearing the pain of growing old alone, Imaru called upon the spirit of the stalled hour, a time weaver named Ngoziez. She offered him a bargain, eternal youth for him and his people. In exchange, they would never grow, never remember, and never leave. Imaru agreed. Years passed. The kingdom laughed every day. But no one learned. No one changed. No one cried. And no one remembered why they stayed. Chapter 4, The Tree of Lost Goodbyes. Kambeni, with Naughty and silent Tima, journeyed to the northern edge of Ejena, where stood the Tree of Lost Goodbyes, an ancient baobab with children's names carved into its bark. Beneath it lay toys, sandals, and tokens. There, Kambeni found a fragment of a forgotten lullaby. When he played it on the river reed flute, shadows emerged, echoes of parents calling out, long-buried memories surfacing. Tima collapsed, weeping for a mother whose face he no longer remembered. The eye on the calabash blinked with sorrow. The truth was close. Chapter 5, The Sorrowful Lullaby. That night, Queen Muso confronted Kambeni. "You're ruining everything," she said. "Why bring sadness into a kingdom of joy?" But Kambeni stood tall, singing the lullaby of goodbyes. It told of the beauty of endings, the sacredness of memory, the strength in letting go. The children listened, some confused, others trembling. And then, slowly, they began to remember the names of mothers, The warmth of brothers. The faces of lost fathers. The spell cracked. Queen Muso dropped her crown. Tears flowed down her cheeks for the first time in 100 years. Chapter 6, the third eye closed as the spell lifted, children began to age, slowly. Trees bloomed where time had been frozen. The palace of coral crumbled gently into stardust. Combeni placed a hand on the calabash. The third eye closed, full of bittersweet memory. Tima approached him, now looking just slightly older. "Will you take this?" he asked, handing over a mask he had carved. "For when you forget who you are?" Combeni smiled. "I will remember." As the sky above Aegina turned from twilight to dawn for the first time in centuries, the drum on Combeni's back beat once, and changed its rhythm. Nadi turned her gaze southward. "Greater than now we walk where shadows dance," she said. "And people forget that they once had names." Here is the fourth 3-hour narrative segment of the Eternal Griot, Tales of the Seven-Eyed Calabash. Part 4, The Village That Danced with Shadows. 3-hour narrative segment. Chapter 1, The place where names vanish. South of Aegina lay a forgotten marshland, where mist hung like torn cloth and the sun dared not shine. At its center sat a village made of reed and silence, Obmezi, the place between names. The villagers had faces, bodies, and voices, but no names. They spoke in gestures. When Combeni asked one of them who they were, the man opened his mouth, but only a shadow fell out. Nadi whispered, "This is a cursed place. A village where names are stolen in exchange for beauty and peace." The calabash twitched again. A fourth eye opened. Its pupil was smoky, undefined. Combeni's drum gave no sound here. Only silence answered. Chapter 2, The Shadow Dance. Each night in Obmezi, the villagers gathered to dance, slow, graceful, and entrancing. But they did not dance alone. Behind every dancer moved a second figure, a shadow that danced slightly out of rhythm, slightly out of step. One night, Combeni watched and realized, the shadows were not theirs. He played his flute. The shadows froze. One turned, and looked straight at him. Its mouth opened, "Greater than we are what they gave up. We are their names, their pasts, their regrets." A boy approached him. No older than 10. He had no name, but carried a shard of a broken mirror. When Combeni gazed into it, he saw himself as a child. And saw the same boy crying alone in a different village, holding the same shard. This boy was once him. Or a memory of him. Or a shadow that split away. Chapter 3, The Weaver of Unbeing. Deep in the marsh, Combeni found a hut woven from spider silk and mist. Inside lived an old woman called Ogbundea, the Weaver of Unbeing, who had not spoken her name in 300 years. She sat beside a loom and wove with threads of shadow. "You seek truth," she said, "but this is a village that chose peace over pain. I give people what they ask, freedom from identity." Combeni asked, "And what do they lose?" Ogbundea replied, "Everything that hurts. And everything that matters." The fourth eye pulsed. Ogbundea offered Combeni a chance. "Leave your story behind. Your sorrow. Your curse. I can weave you into peace." But Nadi growled low. Her eyes glowed. "Don't listen. Peace without memory is a lie." Combeni refused. Chapter 4, The Fire in the Mirror. That night, Combeni returned to the dance. He played a melody of broken rhythms, of jagged drums and cracked voices. The shadows began to twist and writhe. The villagers cried out, not in pain, but in recognition. Names returned like thunderclaps. A woman cried, "I am Nwela." A man screamed, "My name was Otaji, father of twins." A child wept, "Mama. Mama, I remember your song." The shadow dancers dissolved like smoke rising from wet wood. Ogbunea's hut caught fire without flame. Her loom unraveled. The boy with the shard disappeared into Kumbeni's chest, becoming whole again. The fourth eye on the calabash closed. Chapter 5, The Burial of Faiths. Kumbeni led the villagers of Ogmezi in a ritual of names. Each one spoke their name aloud and placed a stone in the marsh, marking their return to selfhood. The reed houses shifted, became clay, and the mist lifted. Kumbeni carved each name into a log. He called it the drum of the remembered, and tied it to his belt beside the calabash. That night, he dreamed of a woman with 7 faces. Each one whispered a name he had not yet spoken. 4 truths are told, she said. 3 remain. The 5th waits where words must not be spoken, and silence is sacred. Chapter 6, The Road of Bones. Kumbeni and Nadi left Ogmezi at dawn. Behind them, names rang like bells. Before them lay a desert of salt and bone. A place where monks lived without tongues, and prophecy was carved, not spoken. The calabash twitched. The 5th eye began to open, slower than the others. Nadi paused at the desert's edge. Greater than where we go next, she said, even your drum must be silent. For there, a single word may awaken sleeping gods. And so, Kumbeni stepped into the whispering wastes, where the wind could remember, but chose not to speak. End of part 4 3 hours Shall I begin part 5, The Monks of the Wordless Desert next?